So I was thinking about graduation coming up. Lots of feelings for a lot of people.
Yep.
And then it got me thinking about, the first time you put your kid on the bus.
Right.
What that feels like separation anxiety. And well, did you put your kids on the bus or you did? Mm-hmm. Okay. And how did that first time feel for you? Was it that
terrifying?
Did you cry? Cause
I don't remember crying. I remember seeing other kids cry, like getting them on the bus and trying to help my kids understand that, like, try and be friends with that person today. Try and, they're having a hard day kind of thing. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I was the mom that drove away from the bus, held it together. Mm-hmm. And when I started to drive to go back home, I was bawling like a baby. So this is what this episode is going to be about, is the seasons of raising our children.
Yep. And letting go. While still holding on to them as best we can.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's a beautiful chaos. It's a roller coaster ride. The ups, the downs, the spinning all around inside. It's a beautiful chaos. Sometimes I love, sometimes I hate. Have to pause or renegotiate. But with gratitude I appreciate this beautiful chaos.
Welcome to Beautiful Chaos. I'm Tammy Ramsey.
And I'm Staci Miller.
And today's episode is Seasons of Raising Children. So I've said this quote. This is one of my favorite quotes, and I can't remember who the author is, but I've said this through multiple of our episodes. Children are meant to be unfolded, not molded.
Right.
And I think that that's really going to help us through this whole episode. Hopefully it will help you as a parent of kids of all ages, no matter where you're.
And I think if we just unpack that for a second. Yeah. So we always think that we are molding our kids, that we are applying our belief system, our thoughts, our activities, and we're molding our kids and we're making them into what we want them to be. And our kids come, parents, this, they come with their own personality and their own ambition, and they turn out being their own person. And yes, they're going to have our traits and they're going to have some of our beliefs, and they're still going to pick up on some of those things, but they are truly their own person. And it's about uncovering those personality traits in them and helping to nurture who they already are.
Yeah, that's beautiful. And I think that making sure that you're addressing that, like Gentry is like the kind and caring, the caretaker. And so I'm continually saying, this is such a great quality that you have of that. I feel like that's unfolding. Yeah. That's just bringing light to their personality traits. Their strengths. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So, I feel like when kids are little, you just feel like it's, if you have multiples, it's loud and it's chaotic, right. And it's a constant in your day.
They're your whole life.
They're your whole life. They're everything. And even if you're working and you're coming home tired, you're trying to find that time to spend with them because you just want to keep them little and keep them. Yep. Oh, best thing when you come home from working and they run to you and hug you and they're so excited to see you. That's fabulous. So I originally was thinking the first milestone is kindergarten, but really do you ever remember your kids being like glued to you, yes, and then all of a sudden they're glued to dad, and you're like, what just happened?
Or just when they start walking.
Well, yeah,
because then they're not so dependent on you. You're not holding them all the time. You're not carrying them from room to room.
Yeah, that's true.
There's a lot of milestones, and they're all worth celebrating. It's so exciting when they learn their first word, or when they start walking or crawling or go to kindergarten or whatever, all these stages we're going to talk about. But each one is as sad as it is exciting and happy and proud moments of what your kids can do.
Yeah. Because there's a part of you'd love to have them little forever, but they're not going to be. So, and like in the opener, putting your kid on the bus for the first time, that's one of those big key moments, because that's really to me, was more of an awakening of this child is independent of me for the next 8 hours or 5 hours, whatever. I think it was a half day in kindergarten, but whatever. But like they don't need you, and you're like, oh.
So now I'm going to tell you my story of my first day of kindergarten, because it was it was scarring, literally, and it has to do with the bus. So I'm going to tell you guys this story. So I was mistaken. I did not put my kids on the bus. They took the bus from school to daycare.
Oh.
So I missed that one up. But I took them to school in the morning. We saw the poor, the kids that were crying because they were leaving their parents. And I did have those speeches with my kids, like, be nice to that kid. They're having a hard day, be the friend, be the good kid, whatever. Yeah. And I let my son off to school. I did not walk him to his first class. He walked to the line like every other kid, and he found his way and all the things. And all day, I thought, I just hope he gets on the bus to go to daycare. I hope he gets on the bus. I hope he gets on the bus. And we had it worked out to where his dad was available to be at the daycare when he got off the bus, so he can take a picture of him getting off the bus with his little backpack for the first time. And just so that we can ease our minds that, okay, he figured out what bus to get on. He got to daycare. We've got this pattern down. We're good. Yeah. And I ended up getting a text message. Well, Blake made it to daycare on the bus, but you don't want to know what he looked like when he got off the bus. And I said, excuse me? And I was terrified immediately. And just to make a very long story short, my son fell at recess.
Oh, no.
He went face first into the rocks, little tiny pebbles, had a huge gash on his head that they put this wonky Band-Aid over. I think they got most of the rocks out, but they put this wonky Band-Aid on across his forehead and cleaned up his face, but he had blood all the way down his clothes from bleeding on the playground. No one called us. And while I appreciate that in this lovely small town, they had everything under control, we had just moved here, and I am losing it that why didn't anyone call me and tell me but it wasn't, he didn't need stitches. He didn't have to go to the hospital. It wasn't the end of the world, but it was the end of the world to a brand new mom who sees the first picture I get of my kid getting off the bus. This massive Band-Aid, this gash in his pretty little face, and blood everywhere. And of course, my son gets on the bus and he's bored. So he starts scratching at the Band-Aid. So what his dad sees is Band-Aid, goose egg, blood dripping down his face, and old blood all over his clothes. And that's the first picture I have from his first day of kindergarten. And just to tie the story up, weeks later, we're still trying to heal this wound. And we're doing like our bedtime stories and bedtime prayers. And he's like, Mom, my forehead itches so bad. It itches. And I'm like, I'm sorry, buddy. Like, it's still your wound healing. And he's scratching it. And he pops a pebble out of his forehead.
Oh my gosh.
Weeks later. And you can't see the scar anymore. He's gotten plenty more scars since then. So we all recovered. But, no first day. Skin. Yeah, no first day could compare to that. So after that, when it came time to send my second, I was like, you're going to be fun.
Yeah.
Because you can't beat your brother.
You can't beat your brother on that one. That was the worst. So, yeah.
Yeah, it was the worst. But that was my bus story.
Oh, that's terrible. Terrible and funny all at the same time.
Oh, yeah, we laugh now.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But that's one of the joys of parenting, too. And I think we'll touch on that later in this podcast, that there's a lot that happens growing up, and when your kids get older, they start telling you like the other side of stories that you didn't know. Yeah. And you're like, glad I didn't know then. But today, that's funny.
That's funny. Yeah. That's right. That's right. We had a gremlin in the house because things would get broken and no one would fess up that it was them. I had a glass top stove and it was shattered. And I'm like, what? And nobody. Yeah. It was just Trishelle and Ashley, but nobody did it.
Right.
And
nobody plugged the toilet. No. And nobody
so then later
lost the remote. And...
Yeah, it was. I found out who, but yeah, it's like then it's funny.
Yeah,
but we still don't have a glass top stove, and I love them. Mm-hmm. So it's our job as parents to teach our children, and sometimes it's tough. And I'm thinking this because kindergarten, they're learning stuff. Mm-hmm. First grade, they're learning stuff, and then we're still having to teach them, well, you teach them all of their lives.
Right.
But sometimes it can feel very overwhelming for you because you're like, I don't know. Going through menopause, I think it was easier with the girls, but with James, I was already starting menopause. And I really had an issue with that, with the timing of things. Like, oh, but I'm so tired.
More irritable.
Yes.
More tired. Yeah.
But you have to do this. You have to do this.
Yep.
And so, and one of those lessons could be like a goodbye. Like, hey, be this person's friend because, they're having a tough time with saying goodbye. And that's a really great opportunity for you to teach your kids how to say goodbye.
Right.
So the other transition times I felt were like when they switched to go to different schools.
The next school up. Yeah.
Yeah. So in here, we had
Yeah.
Yeah.
We have
all
4
your
schools.
kids.
So we have an elementary and then an intermediate because our elementary was too overcrowded. So we have an intermediate school which is just 4th and 5th grade. Mm-hmm. Then they go to middle school for 6th, 7th, and 8th. And then they go to high school for 9th through 12th. And the 9th through 12th in high school, I thought was going to be the longest period of our life because it's 4 years finally when they were only 3 years, 2 years, 3 years. And no, high school goes by. They go from freshman to a senior overnight. It's wild.
Yeah, it's so fast. Well, and I feel like, the older you get, period, the faster time goes. But there's definitely those transition periods when you feel like it's very emotional when they switch schools because you feel like it's very apparent how independent they are.
They're growing up. They're getting bigger. Yeah, they're independent.
And you see it every day in conversations with them and the way that their thinking changes or whatever. And a really good way to keep family connection, because I think it's very important, and we did this always, was to have sit-down dinners. I mean, I know, like, in between of chaos of chasing your kids in various sports and everything, it's very important to have those sit-down dinners so that you can always have conversation and you can find out what's going on in your kid's life and how they are changing as a human, right? How they are unfolding, because the point that they go to school, it's not just you.
Right.
It's teachers.
Everybody's influencing them. Everybody's adding to their life somehow and helping to form who they become.
Right. And things that they're reading, things that they're learning are forming who they're becoming. Right. So some great questions to ask around the dinner table are, what made you laugh today? Because if you say, how was school today?
How was your day? Good.
Yeah, exactly.
What'd you do? Nothing.
What'd
you learn?
Nothing.
We all got the same one. So what I did with my kids, and I started this right from kindergarten, because one, I was just really curious what they would actually do all day.
Yeah.
And what kind of a friend they were going to be and who they were going to hang out with. Yeah. So ours were, what was your favorite part of the day? What was your least favorite part of the day? What's one thing that you learned? And I would pick a subject each day. What's one thing you learned in social studies today? Or what's one thing you learned in math today? So that they actually had to tell me a thing instead of just saying nothing.
Yeah.
And then, so it was your favorite thing, your least favorite thing, one thing. Oh, and who did you play with at recess? Or who did you sit with at the lunch table? One of those two things. Because I wanted to figure out, like, who were they making friends with? Were they making good friends? And it would open up a whole conversation to, okay, tell me more about that friend.
Yeah,
and what did you guys talk about? And what did you play on the playground? Did you play with your toys, or did you play on the swings, or did you play pretend? And that opened up a lot of conversations with my kids so that I could have more conversation. I highly recommend, asking those questions, the least favorite and the most favorite. The other thing about the sit down dinners, we all get busy with kids. We're running them from this game to that game. Sometimes your sit down dinner is in the back seat of the car eating McDonald's on your way home from a game in Pocatello. But instead of having the radio on playing Disney radio, you turn the radio off and you still have those questions.
Yeah.
And I will say there's also a lot of really cool things. Like if you go to like the game section of any like Target, Walmart type store, there's little deck of cards that you can get. And we had a couple of those where it was like, it would ask you a very specific question to ask your kids, or a very specific questions that your kid could ask you, because that's also a thing. We're always the one asking the questions and expecting an answer from them. Let them ask you questions and say, Mom, what did you like to do at the playground when you were in school? You know, what book was your favorite book to read? And remind them that it's okay to ask you questions, because they want to learn about you too. And also they just need to remember that you're just another human doing this life for the first time, just like they are. But we did kindergarten once. So now I can tell you that in kindergarten, I really love to read The Very Hungry Caterpillar. Do you like to read The Very Hungry Caterpillar? And then we can talk about the book.
Yeah. I love that. That's one of my favorite books. I've read that to all my grandkids. Yeah, and that's beautiful. Those questions are fabulous. And I miss, whenever I get the opportunity to pick up grandkids from school or from dance, I enjoy those moments because I do ask the questions.
Yeah.
I don't ask what friend did you play with? That's a really good one too. But I feel like that once you ask a few of those open-ended questions where they have to respond with a full sentence, like that, you know, what's your favorite and all that,
right?
And what's the worst thing and the best thing?
Yeah.
Then it gives them the opportunity to also open up, and they'll usually just start chattering on about
what you learn so much
happened in their day. Yeah. So then they become teenagers. Yeah, and this is where so I did that song, Beautiful Chaos. I wrote the lyrics for Beautiful Chaos, and I just did it through AI. Our original first chorus is original and done by David Bowman and sung by Jordan Bowman, but I just decided one day to just throw the lyrics in the thing, and it hits on this portion of this teenage thing, because sometimes your teenagers turn into people that you don't even know anymore. Yeah. Like you struggle with, like, why are you acting that way?
Yeah.
Like the eye rolls. I had one that was an eye roller that and would not just roll the eye. It was like the whole head was rolling. But like you could just tell with the whole body what was happening. And I don't know, that would always just set me off. And I would just be like, just breathe.
Well, and you don't want to
breathe.
Fight with the person you love the most.
Exactly.
And you feel like in your teenage years, you do argue with your kids more.
Yes.
And at the end of the day, you're just like, why am I yelling at my favorite
person?
Person? Yeah. Or my whatever. I always say, I have one son, one daughter. So I always say my favorite son, my favorite daughter. Yeah. Because I can have favorites because I have one of each, but I never say my favorite kid. You know, it's always my favorite son, my favorite daughter. So it's like, why was I yelling at my favorite son? Yeah. Why was I yelling at my favorite daughter? That's not, I don't like that.
I love that. So, and really the reason why they're rolling their eyes is because their identities are shifting. They're changing. Right. They're trying to grow. They're trying to push away from you.
Right.
And not be, it's like two roosters. You can't have two roosters in a hen house.
Yeah.
So to me, I feel like that is with girls. They need to be the boss. They don't want mom to be the boss anymore. They're trying to find their footing as the boss. Right. And so they're going to push back on you the hardest.
Yeah.
And boys will push back hardest on their dads, because they can't be two roosters in the hen house. They've got to be the boss. And so I feel like that's part of that identity shift at 13 also. They're starting to assert their independence even more so.
Right. And I think that there's also ways that we can nurture those things. Yeah. So, you know, one of the big milestones is when they get to drive. And so they get a lot of independence from that. So the way that I helped with that, I think, is that I would not pay for a car, and I would not pay for, I'm going to give you $20 once in a while for gas or whatever. And I put them on my insurance, that kind of stuff, until they were 18. And then, but they knew that the car was their responsibility. And so they had to get out into the world, and they had to find a job, and they had to work for somebody that was not helping me. You know, yes, I would give them money for mowing the lawn and, you know, different chores around the house, but I can't be their boss, and I can't be the only one that they listen to. So I couldn't be the one that was giving them a paycheck. Yeah. So they went out and got jobs at 14 and a half-ish, because that's when you can get your permit around here, and then saved their money and bought their first cars. And so I think that we can help them be independent, and we can nurture their independence by helping them with their sports, with their jobs, with whatever it is that they're going to continue to do to gain their independence, but still finding time to connect when you can, because we don't want to lose, their time in our lives as much so quickly, because it's so fast when they're teenagers.
It is. You blink and it's gone. And that's why I think, so for a lot of years, we always did a Sunday dinner.
Yeah.
Like, no matter what, like, you had to be at Sunday dinner and we would play games. Like, we have dinner, we have conversation, and we play games, and we laugh and tee-hee and carry on, because a lot of the times during the week, it could feel like
no one connected.
You can't connect.
Yeah.
Either it's time or it's attitudes or whatever it is. But yeah. And we did the same thing with the two girls. James was a little different, because I think I felt guilt from letting the girls, being so hard on them, because they got jobs. And then, like, Ashley quit dancing. She ended up, she played volleyball for 1 year, and then she quit that because she was working. And then Trishelle, she did, I think she did cheer and dance or just cheer. I think she quit dance also and just did cheer. I can't remember. But I just remember that they kind of gave up some of the activities of high school to have these jobs to support themselves. And it was very character building, and it was awesome. And I would definitely wished I had stuck with that version, because with James, we were a little more, well, all right, I'm going to say sports doesn't help either, because back in my day, you could work and you could play sports, because you'd go to school, your practice would be right after school. By 6 o'clock, you could go work a part-time job till 9 or 10. And then, or you could work on the weekends on whatever day you didn't have a game.
Yeah.
Well, James was like, well, he'd go to school, he gets done at, 3:15, and then their practice wasn't until 7 o'clock that night.
Yeah.
How do you make that function? And then, so anyways, I think that needs to change a little bit too. But
I think there's a balance to all
there
of it.
is.
And you just have to find where that balance is for what makes your kid happy and what works for your family. But, I think the important thing is that we're unfolding, not molding.
Right.
And we're letting them be who the best version of themselves is. And also helping them to learn independence in this transition, because our goal as parents, and this one's really hard to hear, so let's all listen up real close. Our goal as parents, and somebody very wise taught me this, my best friend in New York, that is not to raise kids that will continue to depend on you their whole life. You are to raise children who are ready to move out. You need the bird to fly the nest someday. And my kids, unfortunately, I did that really well, apparently, because they both moved out at 18. And I was like, wait a second. Like, the economy is bad, and don't you want to stay living here? And I won't charge you rent, and you can live here as long as you want to. And you'll only have to pay for gas to get to school and back, and you won't have to pay rent. And nope. Like, I want my own place. And it was never like, I got to get out of your house because I can't stand you. It was, I want to have my own house, and I want to do my own thing, and I want to have roommates, and I want to have my job, and I want to whatever. And thank God my kids are incredibly lovely and successful and on their own and doing their own thing. But some days I'm just like, why didn't they want to live with me a little bit longer? And then I remember what I was taught, which is that my identity belongs to me. My identity does not belong to my children.
Yes.
That was another one that she taught me when they were really young. Like, your whole life cannot be what you do for your kids, because your kids will move out someday and you're going to be lost and you're not going to know who you are. Yeah. And so I was lucky that I was taught that by somebody who understood. And now I know that my identity is bigger than mom of these two kids. And while it's the most cherished and the most precious thing that I do, and like seeing my kids is such a exciting reward when I get to see them, it is not my entire identity, and I am a whole person with or without them. And they also are whole people without me, and they're really good at it, and it's okay.
And that's it. See, and that's the sweet sorrow. It's a sweet sorrow.
It is. It's always bittersweet with kids.
It really is. And, along those lines, Kevin would say, well, do you want to raise good children, or do you want to raise responsible adults? And I'm like, well, I want to raise responsible adults. So therefore, you've got to teach them with a soft hand, but not a like
Entitled.
giving them.
You don't want to give them entitlement.
Yes, you don't want to entitle them.
Right.
You don't want to give them, and that's one thing that I see in some families. We're all this way. We think we want our children to have everything we didn't have, or the experiences we didn't have, and all these things. But you can do that, and then all of a sudden they become these entitled people that think that life should just be easy. They should just at 20 years old have everything that mom and dad has.
That we worked all the toys years and years for.
It took us 50 years actually it was 40 years to get a new boat. Like Kevin had a boat since he was 18 that was a POS. Well, maybe not. I mean, it functioned. You move up. It
floated. That matters.
It floated, yes.
Yeah.
But, you build up and you move up. So all of a sudden you have these nice things. We're 60 years old. It's like, no, it took a long time for us to get, and a long time to be able to vacation. So anyways.
Right.
So basically we don't lose our kids all at once, right? We lose them, but in a good way, because they're growing. They're learning to be independent. They're learning to be good adults. Like I think all of us, we both have great adults. And I think they're all, yours are getting ready to get married. Mine are married and have kids and good jobs and everything. So, the main reason why I was thinking of this episode was because of graduation coming up in May. And I was reflecting back on how I felt with each child, because it's a sweet sorrow.
Yeah.
Because you're sorrowful for yourself that this season of your life with this child is over.
Yeah.
And it's going to change. This, and in most cases, all my kids moved out because, for one, I used to tell them when they were little, when you're 18, don't let the door hit you in the butt. You're welcome to come back and visit. Well, we live an hour out of Maine, the bigger city. And so nobody wanted to live here anyways. They couldn't even go to school here for a cheap cost.
Right.
So anyway, so it's very emotional because, you have that sadness of change. Change is hard for all of us. I don't care what it is. I don't even care if it's a good change, because this is a good change.
Right.
And it's hard. And yet you're
so proud of their accomplishment and the fact that they graduated, that they're moving on, that they're capable of taking whatever the next step in life is, because that next step is probably not padded by mom and dad. It probably is their own next step. So it's important that we are, like you said, raising them not to be great kids, but to be great adults, and that they are going to be adults someday. So we have to prepare them for all of the next steps that happen in life also. So, and that's all the little things. As soon as they get a job, you're teaching them the value of $1. I know that my kids would realize, like, they would see the schedule at work and know that I'm only working 2 nights because I have all these other things. My paycheck's going to only be X. And then if I work all these other times when, if I really work a lot during spring break, I can take home a paycheck that looks more like this. And then I might have this much more to put towards my vehicle that I want to buy, or whatever it was. And so we're teaching them the value of $1, what their money looks like, how to save, how to invest. Just different types of responsibility that comes with becoming an adult. So make sure that we're nurturing those things also, because they're not going to stay little forever. And we do have to teach them that the value of $1. I think that's the most important one, because like you said,
huge.
If we're going to the store and, kid says, hey, I want this toy, you buy the toy, but they don't understand that toy is $50. My kids, I would say, when they were really little, and it was so much easier with boys. It was really, really hard with Lindsay, but it was so much easier with boys, because I would say, you can have $1. $1, because I'm not giving you a $10, $20 toy every time you go to the store. So once in a while, it'd be like $1. Well, Hot Wheels are 99 cents, and Blake knew that, and he knew he can get a Hot Wheel every time he went to the store, but it was so hard to find something that would work for Lindsay. But half the time she'd be like, just let me have the $1. And then, 5 trips later, then she could buy something for $5. And so she was really smart about it. But
which taught her to save. So, and I want to say, like, what Ashley is probably my best penny pincher out of all the kids. And when she was little, I did the jar. She had jars for 10% tithing, 10% savings, 10% college, 10% retirement.
Yeah.
Yeah, I did all those for her, and then she could spend whatever was left over. So she would do that with birthday money, Christmas money, all these things. She learned to have these jars.
Yeah.
So what does she do now?
Yeah.
She has accounts that are for Christmas, for vacation,
Right.
for her kids' college, for her retirement, for all these things. And I'm like, and I tried it with James. I don't know if it's because I switched from jars to envelopes, but he spent all of his money in his envelopes.
It might be a boy thing because my girl and boy are the same way.
Yeah, it's crazy. But yeah, that's our job, is to teach them. And social etiquette. Now, sometimes in the schools, they have that class where they teach them social etiquette, like how to set the table, the manners class.
Yeah.
But I think that good table manners are still appropriate, because if your child gets a job and they go to a business dinner, you want them to be prepared to not look like an animal while they're eating, or, so that they can look like they have some manners. And then job interview skills. I love that Junior Miss, because they provide and educate the girls that participate in that. And I know that there's classes for that, but I really think that if your child doesn't have that experience offered to them in school, that you could make that as a game of some sort, and
I think
teach them how to do a good job.
What you're getting your kids involved in matters too, because I had my kids in theater when they were young, and I knew getting them out there and auditioning in front of people was really going to give them a lot of confidence for interview skills later, or for public speaking later, or for just being confident in a crowd of people or at a new job. And it did pay off, because they would have to memorize an audition, and then they would present it in front of some directors, and then they would either get the part or not get the part. And there was plenty of times that they got the part, and there were plenty of times that they did not get the part. And one director told my kids one time, it was not you, I'm sorry, I can't give you credit for this one, but remind your kids that they're not just auditioning when they're on the stage at the audition, they're auditioning all the time. And that was really important, because that's like a life lesson, right? Because yes, when my kids are doing a show for Tammy, she's seeing what they're like backstage, behind the scenes, on stage, sitting in the audience, in between acts. And now she knows that the next play she's going to do, that they already know these certain skills. She already knows that they're capable of doing X, Y, or Z, or that they're not capable of X, Y, or Z. And so regardless of how great that audition might be in those 60 to 90 seconds, she knows that they also have A, B, and C that they can or cannot contribute to the part. And so that's going to help her determine, well, I already know all these other things about them, and they can do this part, and they can do that part. And we're like that in life. If you see me at work, I hope you're seeing the same person that you see at Music in the Park, the same person you hear today, et cetera, et cetera. And I have to remember that all of life is an audition, and I'm constantly putting out what I expect you to know about me. And another quote I think I always think about is, I'm always looking up to somebody. Somebody's always looking up to me.
Oh, that's good.
And so even though I'm trying to look at this person and put them on some sort of pedestal and be like, I want that trait, I want that trait, I want to be more like this, I want to incorporate that into my life, somebody is looking at me somewhere in my life and saying, I don't want to be like that, or I do want to be like that, or I want to do that more. So just remember that for your kids too, that they're always trying out for basketball when they're sitting in the sidelines and acting like a good fan. Because if you can't be a good fan, you're probably not going to be great at sportsmanship. Things like that. So just try and remember that for your kids too.
Yep. And then remember that when they do leave home and, they're living their lives, and they might not call you as often. You might not, you're going to have this disconnect, or feel like a disconnect. The house will feel different. Like everything is just quieter, and you can feel really lonely. But then the fabulous thing is that when they do come back, like when your kids call you up and say, hey, let's go to lunch, or let's go do this. Yeah. Then you know
it's so much sweeter.
So much sweeter. Yeah. Because they're choosing that. They don't have to be with you. They get to be with you, and you get to be with them. Right. And then when they come around full circle and get married, and this, my favorite thing is, the first thing is that when you're able to kind of help your kids, if they're the first year of marriage is always tough. So you'll go through this, you know, but and you probably already have, but sometimes it helps for you to sit down with your kids and kind of be the mediator and listen and try to help them to see each other's side.
Right.
Can be of help. But when you hear them repeating things or using techniques that you've done, then that's one of those, I did something right.
Yeah.
Or when they have kids of their own, my favorite is you hear them saying something to their child and it's just what you've always said to them. And you're like, same pat on the back.
Yep, exactly.
Pat on the back. So every stage feels like the most important one while you're in it. It feels like the biggest loss or the biggest celebration, or like it's like we were talking about with teenagers and their first in the previous episodes.
Right.
About, you know, it's their
all
first.
Those big feelings. Yeah.
It's the same with us.
Yeah.
Those are all our first, just like it's with our kids. It's their first.
Right.
All the emotions are very, very strong. And so,
but always remember, like, we're calling this like the seasons of parenting, that just like seasons, or just like other seasons in our life, however you want to say it, there is always another season coming up. So you might be in that, oh man, the house is quiet, this stinks, but things are about to change. And then there's going to be the next season, and there's going to all of a sudden be, for me, weddings and all the next things that come with that, or whatever.
Then
it
there'll
is.
be a baby.
I mean, that's what they say. Don't rush my kids. They're not ready for that yet. But there is all these, that behind every season is the next season. And there's always going to be something. We have to let all those hard moments come with all those sweet moments. And just remember that, just be present for it. Don't rush it. Let your kids grow. Let them change. Let them develop, whatever it is. Because again, we're not raising children. We're raising future adults, members of society, people who are going to vote and people who are going to make decisions for their kids someday. But it's all beautiful and it's all worth it. And so if you're having a hard time getting through a season, just remember the next season is around the corner.
Yep. Very good advice. Thank you for joining us today. We sure appreciate it. And please subscribe if you're watching us on YouTube, and like us on Facebook. We appreciate any comments, you know, whether you think we're crazy people, because we are.
Which is fair. Yeah.
Or that you love the content that we're sharing with you. So, because we don't know. We're just out here, you know, in my office/studio.
Chugging along. Let us know what you think. Hope you have a great week. And in the meantime, stay empowered.
It's a beautiful chaos, this road.